Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bedtime with Tomi. This evening we'll be reading Chapter 18 from Dancing with the Royal, Clara. The next morning, David and Clara took their time meandering through the galleries of the British Museum, enjoying the exhibits. His security team, George and another protection officer, discreetly posed as tourists, never far from them. The actual tourists ignored them, more interested in selfies and seeing art. Clara had to hand it to David. Attempting to be as nondescript as possible, he dressed in a navy button-up shirt, a baseball cap, sneakers, and dark wash jeans. He gave off a Clark Kent vibe in his glasses, a superhero in disguise. She thought he was sharply dressed in a suit, but the casual look agreed with him too. If he stood next to one of the Greek and Roman statues, he would have no trouble fitting in. There are over 8 million objects in the museum's collection. We won't be able to see everything, but have a look over the map, and we'll try to hit the exhibits that catch your eye, he said as he pushed Clara's wheelchair. She opened the paper and spread it across her lap. David wasn't kidding. This was one of the largest museums she'd ever been to. Where should they even start? Her head started to spin. You know what? Forget the map. Let's just wander around. Sometimes the best surprises are the ones that are unplanned. They moved at a leisurely pace across the ground floor, passing through the Egyptian and Assyrian antiquities until Gallery 4, where 3 large tour groups stood unaware of their surroundings. They pushed past one another and jockeyed to get as close as they could to the glass case containing the Rosetta Stone. There are 3 scripts on the tablet: hieroglyphs, demonic, and ancient Greek, David whispered into her ear. I'm always in awe that the discovery of this single item managed to unlock the mysteries of the ancient Egypt to the world. As the groups began to clear out, they moved up to the display. Wow, the carvings are so intricate. She snapped a photo with her phone. The edges look chipped. I wonder when that happened. The Rosetta Stone is actually part of a larger block. It was discovered broken. The next wave of tourists entered the room, and David pushed Clara out of the way before they were swarmed. Nested safely in the corner, they faced one another. You're impressing me with all this knowledge, she said. I did a little research last night. He moved his hat to scratch his head, then began pushing her toward the ancient Greek and Roman galleries. I have a decent memory for names and dates. It's one of the reasons I studied history as an undergrad at Oxford. Clara let out a low whistle. Oxford. David stopped the wheelchair and looked at her. It's not as impressive as being a professional ballerina. There are far more Oxford grads and dancers of your caliber. I appreciate you saying that, but I respectfully disagree. He laughed. We'll agree to disagree. Did anyone ever tell you that you're gifted at being able to think on the fly of just the right thing to say? Maybe you should have been a lawyer, she joked. Becoming a barrister was something I considered at one point, he admitted. And you didn't because as a teenager I was painfully shy, and my uncle decided I'd be better served by doing an officer course at Sandhurst and joining the army. She tried to picture him in a scarlet tunic and massive black hat, marching forward with a sword held high. She wrinkled her nose. What are you thinking? She caught him watching her closely. I can't see you as the type to bark orders. You're very soft-spoken and easygoing. I assure you, I can, David joked. George and Michael can attest to it. He unlocked the brakes of the wheelchair. Are you ready to get going again? She nodded. The next gallery, number 18, featured artifacts from ancient Greece. They walked past several cases filled with the shimmering gold coins and terracotta pottery. How heavy is the black hat the soldiers wear when they guard the palace? Clara asked. The bearskin cap? It's heavy, but not quite as heavy as a cavalry helmet. She glanced behind her. Help a girl out. You were in the cavalry? Uh-huh. I was a captain in the lifeguards, one of the 2 household cavalry mounted regiment divisions. Pink horses, red tunics, and gold helmet with white plumes. That I can absolutely picture. He looked so majestic on a horse. How long did you serve for? 4 years. I wish for it longer, but my uncle asked me to step in and become a working girl. He reminded me that representing the crown, I'm still serving my country, just in a different way. And your uncle's a man you don't say no to. Exactly. The air was suddenly filled with the scent of fresh coffee. David stopped pushing her. They both took a sniff and exchanged glances. Coffee break, they said at the same time, and laughed. He stopped right outside the cafe. How do you take your coffee? I take it with 2 sugars and room for a milk. I'll be right back. Clara was happy to have a moment to herself. She watched the other tourists sit down at tables nearby, glued to their phones. She shook her head. Even on vacation, some people couldn't find a way to unplug themselves and step away from social media. I haven't had this much time on my hands ever. If I were in LA, I'd be at home sitting on the sofa, thinking about what the company was doing in rehearsal. I'd be making myself miserable. But being here, it's like I'm in a different world. I haven't thought about dance once today, until now. David's working his magic on me. He returned a couple of minutes later with 2 steaming cups of coffee, a blueberry muffin, a chocolate chip cookie, and a snickerdoodle. They made their way to the private members' room on the first floor, where they had some space to themselves. It was much quieter. I don't know about you, but I haven't had a coffee without something sweet. Sorry, I can't have a coffee without something sweet. David sat down at a table across from Clara. I couldn't decide what I wanted, so I got a muffin and the cookies. You can have first pick, or we can share. Her eyes fluttered. If it's a choice between chocolate and anything else, the chocolate always wins. He slid the plate toward her. It's yours, son. Do you think that you want any of the muffin or the other cookie? She shook her head and pulled the chocolate chip cookie close to her. Nope, this is all I need. He was too good to be true. Chocolate and coffee, 2 of her favorite things in life. She rubbed her hands together. Don't mind me. I'm just about to devour the muffin. Be my guest. Clara took a sip of her coffee. The more time she spent with David, the more she was learning she should never judge a book by its cover. So this best friend you keep referencing, can you tell me a little more about her? Her name's Amanda Collins, and once you meet her, you'll never forget her. She's got a larger-than-life personality, Clara said, breaking off a piece of the cookie. We've been besties for about 10 years. We're both from Seattle. David chewed thoughtfully. Did you meet her in school? In a way. She swallowed hard as the memories of the past began to resurface. My dad was friends with her dad. There was an accident and my parents, her voice trembled. They didn't make it. A stray tear welled in the corner of her eye. Mr. and Mrs. Collins took me in and have always treated me like their own daughter. David pushed his food and coffee aside and reached for her hand. Forget I ever asked. No, she said, her voice steadier. It's been a long time. My therapist has always pushed me to be open and talk to others about them. She said sharing their stories helps keep their memories alive and would help process their own thoughts and emotions. He squeezed her hand, offering her comfort. Another salty tear leaked out of her eye, then another. She took a deep breath, allowing a release. Mom always wanted to be a dancer, like me, but our parents didn't see it as a viable career option. She used to joke that the real reason she signed me up for Mommy and me dance classes as a kid was so she could dance too. Clara chuckled. When I told Mom and Dad that I wanted to become a professional ballerina, they were so supportive. Dad would spend his days off building me a little studio in the garden shed. Mom took sewing lessons to figure out how to make me a tutu. Costumes don't come cheap. David rubbed circles on her hand, giving Clara his full and undivided attention as she gave him a glimpse into her childhood. I normally never share things like this with anyone except Amanda. She's my person, the one who knows me the one who knows all my deepest and darkest secrets, my hopes and my desires. David's a stranger, but something inside me is telling him I can trust him. I always trust my instincts. Thank you for telling me about your parents. They sound like they were wonderful people, David said in a hushed tone when she finished her reminiscing. He had moved her chair so she was right beside her, still holding her hand and caressing her wrist gently with his thumb. They were, she sniffed. Her body was no longer racked with sobs. I haven't known you very long, he said, his blue eyes sparkling with raw emotion, like diamonds. But I wager that if your mom and dad were here right now, they'd be so proud of you for not only following your dreams, but also for the person you've become. You really think so? Yes, I do, he nodded emphatically. You're kind and compassionate, and you have a beautiful heart. Not just anyone would have helped me out at the airport when I couldn't find my wallet. Instinctually, she raised her arms. David leaned forward and wrapped her in a warm embrace. Clara squeezed him tightly, inhaling and exhaling deeply, feeling a release from the sadness she carried with her earlier. Thanks for listening to me. As he pulled away, she wiped her eyes on the back of her hand. I'm sorry for going all emo on you. I'm sure it's not what you expected today to turn into. Don't ever apologize for having a cry. And while we're on the topic, I want you to know that Suddenly, a cool female's voice announced over the speaker. The museum will be closing in 15 minutes. All visitors should please begin making their way to the exits. David and Clara jumped. Is it 4 in the afternoon already? I can't believe we've been here all day. She opened and closed her mouth. Her body felt heavy and all her muscles ached. She wasn't used to sitting for so long. Now, what were you saying before you were cut off? His Adam's apple bobbed up and down. Just that A door opened. They turned to see George entering. Leeds, you and Miss Little are you ready to depart? I'm supposed to remind you that your mother's expecting you for dinner at 6 tonight. His shoulders heaved. He let out a deep sigh. Their private moment together was over. Tonight's Thursday, isn't it? David stroked his jaw. I dine with Mum every Thursday, he told her. I've monopolized you enough today. With traffic, it's going to take a while to get back to the St. George, Clara said, trying to downplay her disappointment. She was burning with curiosity to know what David had tried to tell her before they were interrupted. I suppose you're right. He stood and walked behind Clara to push her to the door. We're ready, George. As they departed the museum through the main hallway, she reflected on their time together. She focused on the way his hair was out of place when he removed his hat, and how the corners of his mouth curved up when he was happy. When he touched her hand and held it the entire time she spoke to him about his parents, it was warm and comforting. Pangs of sadness hit her. She didn't know when she'd be able to see him next. Later that evening, Amanda nearly broke Claire's eardrums when she screamed into the phone. You spent all day with Prince David? That's like an official date. My bestie is dating royalty, she gushed. It wasn't a date, Claire pinched the bridge of her nose. She replayed the entire time at the museum in her head for the millionth time. It was so a date, Amanda shouted. Clara held her phone an inch from her ear. Give me the details. What was he wearing? What was he like? He was casual today in jeans and a button-up, and she searched for the right word. Real. That's not enough for me to go on. I need more. How was he real? I don't know, Clara huffed. He may be a self-proclaimed workaholic, but he's also incredibly aware of everything that's going on around him. He's smart, funny, patient, organized, and... Oh, see, I can hear it in your voice. As Ariel's older sister said in The Little Mermaid, you've got it bad. She frowned, trying to recount the scene Amanda was referencing. What do I have? Amanda giggled. That's what King Triton said. Amanda, you're falling for him. No, that's not possible. Her eyes widened and she fell back against the silky pillow of the bed. He's practically a stranger. A girl doesn't start falling in love with a guy after 3 days. That's not how it's coming across to me, Amanda said, raising her voice again. Okay, I'll admit I like the man, but I wouldn't go as far as saying as I'm falling for him. Clara set the phone down and stared up at the soft glow of the chandelier above the 4-poster bed. Yet. Suit yourself. I call it like I see it, see? She heard the sound of her friend unzipping her suitcase. Have you met my future husband, Prince Edmund, yet? He's only 4 years younger than me, you know. He would have been my perfect match. I just know it. Maybe you should arrange for us to have a double date. Clara snickered. Amanda had held a crush on Eddie for as long as he'd known her. She still had the cardboard cutout of him that she'd had in her childhood room. Clara wasn't just supposed to know that it lived in Amanda's spare bedroom closet. Yes, I've met him, and a hard pass on the double date. I have no idea when or if I'm ever going to see David again. Amanda scrolled once more. When did you meet Edmund? Clara's face fell. Her bestie wasn't quite up to speed on the full story yet. How much unpacking do you have left? Enough. Her eyes fluttered. Let's start back at the very beginning. So that was chapter 18 of Dancing with the Royal. David and Clara had one of their first special outings at the museum. I based that scene based on my own experience at the British Museum, walking through the galleries. I was there all day, and it was such an amazing experience. I mean, to see so many artifacts in a room together, especially as a budding historian. So I'll talk more about that maybe in a future video, a little bit about behind the scenes of Dancing with the Royal. But in the meantime, if you want to pop ahead to see what comes next, you can pick up your copy by clicking the links in the bio. Until then, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.